We find our heroes on one of the Galar region's more scenic routes. The sun is shining, rookadeer are singing in the branches, and Ash Ketchum is engaged in his favourite pastime, battling. He and Scorebunny are engaged in a heated clash with another trainer's Center Scorch, and this is meant quite literally, as after a hard-fought battle, both Pokemon are readying a finishing blow. For Scorebunny, this is Ember, while Center Scorch uses Flamethrower. Colliding in midair, the two fire-type moves press against each other for a moment, but this is short-lived, as Flamethrower promptly consumes Ember before bathing Scorebunny. As Scorebunny is pushed back, Center Scorch's trainer tells Ash that he really ought to teach it a better fire move. However, Ash grins that it may not know many fire moves, but it has other tricks up its sleeve, and it knows how to use those to great effect. He then calls for a tackle, with the rabbit's eyes turning white as it slams into the bug. This is enough to knock Center Scorch off its many feet, and as the firebug goes toppling backwards, Scorebunny uses tackle once more to finish things off. The two trainers then shake hands before heading their separate ways, with Scorebunny deciding to stay outside its ball for a while and walk alongside Ash. Ash gushes over how strong the fire-type has gotten, while beside him Bee and Raihan both add their own praise, with Bee complimenting the dedication Ash has put into training it, while Raihan respects the unique ways Ash finds to bring out the best in his Pokemon. This happy topic of conversation continues for a while longer before Ash feels vibration in his back pocket. Reaching for the source, he finds that someone is calling his Rotom phone. When he answers, Ash finds Sonia on the other end, and so greets her with a smile, asking what's up. Sonia replies that she's got a lead for him in regards to the Gigantamax research he's doing for her grandma, and Ash grins that he's all ears, as Scorebunny clambers onto his shoulder to wave at the ginger-haired woman. Sonia then asks Ash if he's heard of the Dyna Tree festival, to which the boy shakes his head, saying he hasn't. Sonia admits this makes sense, since it only happens once every 100 years, before telling him that it's a festival to celebrate the blooming of the Dyna fruit, a special fruit that only grows on one tree in the entire world. Ash beams that it sounds awesome, while Bee in her more down-to-earth way asks what's so special about a fruit. Sonia replies that back before people were able to harness wishing stars to create Dynamax bands, eating the Dyna fruit was the only reliable way to Gigantamax a Pokemon, with some theorizing that the Dyna fruit may be tied to the origin of the Gigantamax phenomenon. But that's not all. The Dyna Tree has always been guarded by the three legendary birds, Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno, but this trio are not the same birds found in other regions. Instead, they each possess a unique typing only found in their Galar incarnations. Considering their close ties to the tree and the fruit, many have speculated that perhaps the Dyna Tree caused this mutation, and if that is true, then the full transformative nature of the fruit may not be known yet. Raihan, as the sharpest among them, concludes that it would therefore be wise to get a first-hand account, considering how infrequently these Dyna fruits bloom. Sonia grins that she knew she could count on him to get right to the point, before informing the trio that she's already bought them train tickets to the festival, though they'll have to hurry, since their train leaves in 10 minutes. Gulping, Ash yelps that in that case they better run, taking off at top speed while his friends give chase, yelling for him to wait up since he doesn't even know where the nearest train station is. Meanwhile, not too far from where the trio had just been standing, Team Rocket sit huddled in a large bush. They'd been eavesdropping on the twerp's conversation with the intent of leaping out to surprise them and steal Pikachu, but what they just heard is even more enticing. Gleefully, Meowth tells his teammates to imagine what they could do with that there Dyna fruit, but it seems that they are already way ahead of him, with James giggling that due to its rarity, they could plant the seeds and create their own Dyna fruit orchard, cornering the market, while Jesse exclaims that James is thinking too small. That fruit is said to have transformative properties, so if they made it into a face cream instead, it might be able to turn her into even more of a radiant beauty. James and Meowth sweat drop at this idea, while Jessie continues to enjoy her own little fantasy world. However, one thing is clear. The Crooked Cohort are all in agreement that they must get their hands on that fruit, and that means following the twerps. In the distance, they hear the sound of a train whistle, and as Ash and Co.'s train starts speeding away, Jessie, James, and Meowth give chase, pleading with it to slow down or come back. The train ride to the Crown Tundra takes all day, with it being dusk by the time Ashby and Raihan arrive at the Freezington station. The town certainly lives up to its name, as despite the pleasant weather during the day, ice and snow now blanket everything, With a hint of whininess to his voice, Ash complains that it's too cold, but Bee scoffs that this is Ash's weakness talking, declaring that as part of Master Mustard's training, she had to wake up every morning at 3 AM and swim through the half-frozen ocean. She then suggests that it would do Ash some good to try it, since it's an invigorating experience, even offering to find him a body of water right now. Sighing, Raihan pleads with her to save it for another time, since the last thing they need is for Ash to catch hypothermia. He then points out that it looks like a lot of other trainers have already figured out a way to beat the cold, and as Ash and Bee look around, they see what he means. Almost every trainer here has one or more fire-type Pokemon by their side. Overhearing Raihan's comment, a girl with a Magby, a Magmar, and a Magmortar tells him that they're all preparing for the Bonfire competition. Ash asks what that is, and the girl explains that one of the many events held during the Dyna Tree festival is a competition to see which trainer and their Pokemon can create the biggest bonfire. Ash excitedly exclaims that sounds awesome, before hitting upon the idea to enter with all his fire starters, since it's been forever since he's seen them, and maybe it would help Scorebunny to learn a new move like the guy from that morning said. Silently promising to make it up to Talonflame and Torkoal some other time, Ash then darts off towards the Pokemon Center, with Pikachu following right behind him. After a quick call to Professor Oak and Professor Kukui, Ash is able to get the Pokemon he needs, and so with a grin calls forth Charizard, Quilava, Infernape, Pignite, and Incineroar. Pikachu is delighted to see all his old friends again, and vice versa, while Scorebunny eagerly rushes in to meet everyone. The other fire starters greet the rabbit with open arms, each producing a gout of flame to make Scorebunny feel welcome, and this makes Ash smile as he asks his friends if they're ready to help him win the bonfire competition. In unison, the fire types let out an eager cry of agreement, and this earns them a round of applause from someone behind Ash. Spinning around, Ash sees a pasty, paunchy man with greying black hair and a smile that more closely resembles a smirk, as if he alone is privy to some grand joke. The man smiles that Ash has quite the collection of fire Pokemon, to which the boy beams that he sure does, as they all gather round him. Nodding, the man then introduces himself as Moe Slunk, CEO of Slunk Corp and Master of Ceremonies for this year's Dyna Tree Festival, before handing Ash a business card bearing an ornate S on the back. Ash then asks what exactly Slunk Corp does, to which Slunk replies that he likes to think that Slunk Corp's mission is to see the future and provide for people's needs before they even know they need something. Ash beams that this sounds really cool, asking if that means he's a psychic, but Slunk merely gives a paternalistic chuckle saying that no, his style of prediction isn't anything supernatural, instead it's the result of careful analysis of market trends. This only confuses poor Ash, so Slunk rephrases, saying it's more like how sometimes in a Pokemon battle, a trainer can tell what their opponent is going to do before they do it and so sets up a counter in advance. This at last makes sense to Ash, who suggests that if Slunk knows so much about battling, maybe he'd like to have a quick match with him and his Pokemon. But with a shake of his head, Slunk declines, saying that he'd love to, but as MC he has many duties to attend to. Ash understands, and so he and his Pokemon wave Slunk off, before following him back into the street to meet up with Bee and Raihan. He finds the pair outside a cafe drinking hot cocoa, and when they see him, Raihan slides a mug over to Ash, saying they figured he'd want one too. Thanking his friends, Ash takes a seat before introducing them to his fire types. Bee immediately takes an interest in Pignite and Infernape, admiring their fighting typing, while Raihan gravitates towards Charizard, proving to be quite knowledgeable at its species despite not owning one himself. Meanwhile, Incineroar, having never seen snow as thick as this, starts to build a snowman with Pikachu's help, while Quilava and Scorebunny decide to have a race. Using Flame Wheel to travel at high speeds, Quilava easily wins the first round, and so when they go again, Scorebunny attempts to emulate the Porcupine Pokemon. However, when it attempts the somersault needed to kickstart the move, it instead comedically face-plants into the tightly packed snow. As tears fill Scorebunny's eyes, Ash and Quilava come over to comfort it, with the boy saying that he's proud of it for trying to learn a new move, though maybe Flame Wheel isn't the best choice considering its style of movement. Eager to help, the other fire types then all gather round, each showing off one of their fire type moves. Incineroar goes first, seemingly the most excited of all to be acting as a teacher, as it manifests a flame in its mouth before lunging forward and demonstrating the power of its Fire Fang. With a wistful smile, Ash is reminded how this is the same way Stoutland taught it Firefang back when it was a Litten, and as he and Incineroar make eye contact, he knows that Stoutland would be proud of how far it's come. Next up is Infernape, who utilizes Flare Blitz, figuring that with Scorebunny's strong legs, it might be well suited to the jump and dive maneuver it likes to use when executing the move. In a similar vein, Pignite stamps its own feet before demonstrating a flame charge, while towering above it, Charizard belches out bursts of flames with its flamethrower attack. By now, fire is filling the air, and with it comes enough smoke that Bee and Raihan have been forced to put down their drinks and pull their shirts over their mouths and noses to avoid inhaling the noxious fumes. Sheepishly, Ash apologizes, calling for his Pokemon to stop, before asking Scorebunny which of the moves it liked best. However, to his great surprise, when he looks down to where Scorebunny had been standing moments ago, he instead finds a trail of footprints in the snow heading out of town. As Pikachu clambers onto Ash's shoulders, he gives chase, and before long finds Scorebunny seated on a log muttering darkly to itself and spitting embers into the snow. Smiling, Ash asks the rabbit why it ran off like that, but when it sees him, Scorebunny just chitters something in a reproachful tone. Hearing this, Pikachu clambers down and attempts to console Scorebunny, but even still the fire type seems upset, protesting its point while gesticulating wildly then gesturing to itself. Each time it does this, it fires a few more embers into the snow, and on the third instance, Ash starts to get an idea of what has gotten Scorebunny so upset. Kneeling down, Ash asks Scorebunny if it didn't like it when he had all the other fire types show off their moves, because it felt like he was saying that he wanted it to be more like all of them. Scorebunny nods miserably, and so Ash apologizes, saying that wasn't what he was trying to do at all. He just wanted to help it achieve its goal, but if that's not the right way to do it, then he'll keep trying to figure out new ways to help it, where it can still feel like itself. And he knows that one of these days they'll figure out a signature move that's unique to it. This makes Scorebunny smile, and as Ash opens his arms, the little rabbit leaps into them, wrapping its own around his neck in a hug. When they return to the cafe, Scorebunny is in much higher spirits, and happily plays with the others until it's time for the festival to begin. Following a candlelit path, Ash, Bee, Raihan, and many others leave Freezington, heading deep into the tundra. At the end of their path is a large hill, and atop it stands what can only be the Dyna Tree. At least 100 feet tall, the tree already stands apart from others by the pink and white leaves that cover its branches. However, this is not its only distinguishing feature, as on closer inspection, Ash and friends see a large pink ball atop the tree which must be the Dyna Fruit. This fills our heroes with excitement at the thought of seeing it bloom, and so they head into the campgrounds that have been set up at the base of the hill, eagerly discussing what they think tonight has in store for them. Not too far behind them, another group enter the area, that being Team Rocket. Having managed to catch up with the train before it could pick up too much speed, the treacherous team spent their ride on the roof, being buffeted by wind and having to quickly drop to their stomachs to avoid colliding with the tops of tunnels. Understandably, this has left them weary and bedraggled, but when they catch sight of the tree, this is all pushed from their minds. Without a moment's hesitation, Jesse, James, Meowth, and Wobbuffet run headlong towards the tree, their greed outweighing their good sense. As they pass, the Magmar girl from before calls out for them to stop, saying they can't go near the tree yet, but the thieves don't dignify this with a response. Soon they reach the top of the hill, with Meowth gleefully telling his compatriots to give him a boost and he'll go grab the fruit on top. However, he is quickly cut off when 3 shrill cries fill the air. As if from out of nowhere, 3 large birds appear out of the gloom, landing in front of Team Rocket and placing themselves between the crooks and the tree. Up close it is clear that these are Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno, though not as Team Rocket knows them. Articuno's blue plumage is now purple, and it seems to be sporting an intimidating mask, while Zapdos is now orange with much smaller wings and much sturdier legs. However, the biggest change lies with Moltres, whose flames now glow pitch black, giving the impression of some otherworldly demon. Gulping, James tries to mollify the Galarian Guardians, calling them nice birdies, but from the look the legendaries share, it is clear that they are about to be anything but. With a call from Moltres, Black flames burst into life on each of the thieves' rear ends, causing them to leap into the air and howl with pain. Frantically, they try to put out the blazes, but to their great shock and horror, Jesse, James, Meowth, and Wobbuffet find themselves frozen in place under the intensity of Articuno's glare. Still howling from their burning butts, Team Rocket are left to hang in the air for a moment, though thankfully this indignity is not long-lasting, as Zapdos steps up to the plate. With a cry of its own, the Thunderbird begins to run in place, building up kinetic energy, before leaping up and delivering a thunderous kick which catches the crooks and sends them blasting off again. Back at camp, the Magmar girl sighs that she did try to warn them, saying the legendary birds are very protective of the tree, only allowing certain people to access it at very specific times. Ash, who overhears this, tells her not to worry about it, since that's just how Team Rocket are, while Bee stoically adds that it's impossible to help those who will not help themselves. Muttering that she guesses they're right, the girl then turns around, asking if they're the trio she met at the train station. Raihan nods that they are, and the girl smilingly introduces herself as Alexandria, while Ash and Co do likewise. As it turns out, Alexandria is a fan of Raihan's, asking for an autograph, which the Dragon Master good-naturedly supplies, before asking what's brought her to the Dyna Tree festival. Alexandria replies that she's actually here to defend a family legacy, since her great-grandmother won the last Bonfire competition, and was granted the right to ascend the hill and receive the Dyna Fruit from the legendary birds. Ash beams that if she wants to repeat the feat, she'll have to get past him and his buddies, and Alexandria grins that he's on, as they bump fists, before heading over to the area set aside for the competition. Soon each contender and their Pokemon are gathered around a small circle of stones, as from a stage, Moe Slunk debriefs them on the rules. The objective is for each trainer to work with their Pokemon to create a bonfire from materials they gather from the nearby forest. If at any point a team's fire goes out, or all their Pokemon faint, they are disqualified, and it is within the rules to battle, meaning everyone should stay on their toes. At the end of an hour, all the remaining fires will be judged on their size and heat output, and as per tradition, whichever team is declared the winner will earn the right to climb up to the Dyna Tree and receive the Dyna Fruit. When he is done, Slunk tells everyone their time starts now, and with the sound of dozens of Pokeballs bursting open at once, the bonfire competition begins. From the crowd, Bee, Raihan, and Pikachu watch as Ash begins to divide up jobs with the rest of his team. Knowing them and their strengths well, Ash tells Charizard and Infernape to come with him into the forest to look for kindling, while instructing Quilava and Pignite to stay here and keep the fire burning. Proudly, Scorebunny steps up to help with that job, but chuckling a little nervously, Ash admits that he's not sure that would be the best use for it. Scorebunny pouts at this insinuation, but livens up a bit when Ash explains that he wants it to partner up with Incineroar and protect their fire, in case anyone tries to attack while he's away. He then mounts up on Charizard with Infernape, and wishes his friends luck before taking flight. Soon the trio find themselves soaring over a patch of trees, and as Infernape drops down for a closer look, Ash and Charizard continue to scout. It seems they are not the only ones employing this strategy, as a young man riding a lawn chair carried by twin Talonflames soon barges into them, with the trainer telling them to use Heat Wave to knock Ash and Charizard off course. Hot Air buffets trainer and Pokemon, but Charizard has endured far worse than this before, and so with a roar retaliates by using a flamethrower that scorches the three foes to a crisp, as well as disintegrating the lawn chair, so the trainer falls into the trees with a yelp. Another sound then fills the air, that being Infernape's cry, and wanting to check on it, Ash's Charizard dive down. Soaring and weaving between branches, Ash and Charizard quickly find that Infernape has its hands full of promising Tinderwood, and the cry was a request for pickup, which the duo happily provide. Helping Infernape back onto Charizard's back, Ash spots Alexandria down below. She has Magby perched on her head, firing off small bursts of flames like a blowtorch to cut through promising tree limbs so they can land in her arms. It's a clever strategy, and as the two rivals lock eyes, they give each other matching determined grins before Charizard rises back above the tree line. Landing back at their assigned fire pit, Ash finds Quilava and Pignite hard at work, with Quilava using Flame Wheel in a circle to heat up the rocks to the point of being red hot, while Pignite stands in the center of the pit, also surrounded by flames to help Quilava out. Seeing their trainer and friends, the pair of Pokemon rush over to help, and so they, along with Ash, Charizard, and Infernape, place the kindling into the glowing pit, where it immediately catches alight. Thanking his friends, Ash tells Charizard to stay here and keep using Flamethrower to keep the flames strong, while he and the rest will go back up Scorebunny and Incineroar. And it is a good thing they do, as when Ash gets close, he sees the pair have their hands full. Scorebunny is currently engaged in battle with the Darmanitan, while a little ways away, Incineroar is taking on 3 opponents at once with Darkest Lariat, a trick it must have picked up from training with Kukui's Incineroar since the Alola League. Breaking his team in 2, Ash joins Scorebunny with Pignite, having it use Fire Pledge to knock Darmanitan off its feet, so that Scorebunny can finish it off with a tackle. The 2 fire types then fist bump, before with a squeal, Pignite is bowled over by a Fire Blast to the back. Spinning around, Ash and Scorebunny see a trainer with a Houndoom smirking at them, as she cockily tells it to roast the rabbit next. However, Scorebunny has other ideas, and as its eyes turn a rich maroon color, it leaps up, delivering a super effective double kick to the Devil Dog's snout, knocking it out. By now, Infernape, Quilava, and Incineroar have defeated their opponents, and so the team reconvene with Infernape joining Ash in helping Pignite back to its feet. As one, they return to their fire, which has grown exponentially under Charizard's care, and so go back to back, forming a protective circle around the fire, ready for more attacks. However, none come, as only 3 other teams are left standing at this point, and 2 of them have decided to gang up on the last one, which happens to be Alexandria's. Magmar and Magmortar are hard at work defending her and Magby, while they stoke their fire, but against 12 opponents, this is hardly a fair fight, a fact which offends Ash's sense of fairness, and so gathering his team, he comes to the aid of his new friend. As the shadows of Ash and his 6 fire starters fall over the attackers, their false courage deserts them, and from there it's easy to take them all down. As the fainted forms of the attackers' Pokemon land in a pile beside their trainers, Alexandria approaches Ash, thanking him for the assist, and asking if he's here to battle her now too. Smiling, Ash says he'd love to, but it doesn't seem right after what Magmar and Magmortar had to endure, and instead suggests they call a ceasefire, agreeing that as the last 2 contenders, they just work on their own fires and let that be the deciding factor, like it was always meant to be. Alexandria smiles that this sounds good to her, and so the friends shake hands before parting. By now the time limit has almost elapsed, and with both fires going strong, Ash simply tells his Pokemon to keep pumping heat into it so it doesn't go out before the end. Finally, Slunk returns to the stage, and Ash briefly wonders if he's not used to the heat of all this fire, as his clothes and face are covered in sweat. However, this is only a fleeting notion, as moments later he calls time on the event. Ash and Alexandria, as the last team standing, head up to the podiums with their Pokemon, while Slunk and a few aides go to inspect their bonfires. After much deliberation, Slunk returns to the stage, and with a little shrug says that as far as they can tell, both fires are equally good, so it's a tie. As one, the crowd face falls, while Ash laughs that he guesses it's hard to assess fire. Alexandria, though, is not satisfied, and so demands that Ash battle her for the sake of her family legacy, but Slunk steps between them, saying perhaps they can have that battle later. For now they must complete the ceremony and head up to the Dyna Tree. Wrapping a hand around each of their wrists, Slunk then begins to march up the hill, with Ash and Alexandria jogging to keep up. In a procession, most of the audience follow at a distance, though only the MC, the winners and their Pokemon are allowed to actually approach the tree. When they are in place, Slunk cries out to Zapdos, Moltres and Articuno to come and bestow upon them the Dyna Fruit, though for a moment he receives no response. Due to the lateness and chill in the air, fog has set in, obscuring the top of the tree where presumably the legendary birds now rest, and so a murmur rises up that maybe they didn't hear Slunk through the mist. However, this theory is quickly put to rest, when as one the legendary trio descend, though something is clearly wrong, as instead of carrying the large fruit Ash saw before, they approach in an attack pattern, fury in all their eyes. With a rage-filled core, the legendary birds swoop Ash, Alexandria, and Slunk, with the younger pair having to pull the businessman back so he's not skewered on the tip of Zapdos's beak. Black flames then burst to life thanks to Moltres' fiery wrath, causing Slunk to cry that the birds have gone mad as he flees back into the crowd. Articuno goes to follow him, but is stopped by a Darkest Lariat from Incineroar as its forearm slams into the bird's windpipe, driving it into the tree. This draws the ire of the remaining two, with a thunderous kick from Zapdos downing the part Dark type. Thankfully, Charizard is there to cover for its friend with a wing attack, which does serious damage to the bird. Unfortunately, it is stopped from following up on this, as Articuno traps it in suspended animation with freezing glare, while Moltres bathes it in more pitch-black flames. Charizard roars in pain, and so Ash rushes in, pulling off his vest and trying to smother the flames. However, all this accomplishes is to singe the vest, as these flames seem to possess a supernatural quality. This doesn't stop Ash though, and even as his hands begin to blister, he keeps trying to save his friend, until finally Articuno blows him back with a flap of its mighty wings. However, the act of doing so forces it to turn its focus away from Charizard for a moment, and a moment is all the dragon needs, bursting forward and clamping its jaw around Moltres' throat, as the one who attacked it while it was helpless. It then wraps its arms around Moltres' wings, binding them to its side, and shooting upwards. The remaining birds give chase, and as the three of them puncture the fog blanket, Ash thinks he sees something odd, though he does not get a chance to look for long, as the mist quickly obscures the battlers once more. Up above, Articuno and Zapdos try to take a swipe at Charizard to free Moltres from its grip, but it seems that Charizard has no desire to hold on to the Dark type either, instead beginning to fly in circles as it executes a devastating seismic toss. The thrown Moltres then crashes into its two allies, and as the trio of birds come toppling down, Ash is able to see the top of the tree once more, and this confirms what he thought he saw before. The Dyna Fruit is gone. By now, Bee, Raihan, and Pikachu have made their way to the tree to back Ash and Alexandria up. Sparks flash on Pikachu's cheeks, but Ash tells him not to attack, since by bringing all his fire starters back, he's technically exceeded the number of Pokemon he's allowed to have on him, and if Pikachu uses a move, the Pokédex on his Rotom phone might pick up on that and send Pikachu back to Oak's lab. Ears drooping, Pikachu nods his understanding, and so instead watches as Infernape launches a close combat onto Moltres, uppercutting it under the beak, while Pignite uses Flamethrower to distract Articuno so it can't use Freezing Glare. Seeing that things seem to be under control, Ash turns to his friends, both human and Pokemon, and asks them to keep the birds at bay while he climbs the tree. Raihan asks why, and Ash explains that it looks like someone's stolen the Dyna Fruit, and that's why the birds are upset, so maybe if he can find a clue to who did it, he can calm them down. Ash's friends accept this, and so Raihan mounts up on Charizard, promising to act as a diversion, while Alexandria grins that she owes him one for helping her at the Bonfire competition, so she and her Pokemon will cover his back. Bee nods stoically, promising that as always, she will be his staunch defender, while Pikachu clambers onto his best friend's shoulder, ensuring that he doesn't have to undergo this ordeal alone. Beaming that he doesn't know what he'd do without friends like them, Ash begins his climb. Thankfully, the branches are plentiful and close enough together that he can leap from limb to limb. However, this does little to protect against the cold the higher up Ash gets. Still dressed in his usual day clothes of t-shirt, shorts, and a vest, Ash is ill-equipped for the frozen climate, especially with the added wind chill. As a result, our young hero quickly loses feeling in his extremities, and more than once lands awkwardly on a branch, slipping and only avoiding a potentially lethal fall thanks to quick reflexes or Pikachu coming to his rescue. But nonetheless, Ash keeps going, unwilling to let innocent Pokemon be in distress so long as he can prevent it. Finally, after what feels like hours, but in actuality was maybe 15 minutes, Ash and Pikachu's heads pop out of the thick white leaves that make up the top of the Dyna Tree. Scrambling to pull themselves onto the thick carpet of leaves, they begin to crawl towards the place where earlier the giant Dyna Fruit rested. Ash begins to search for clues, but finds nothing aside from a few signs that whoever or whatever took the fruit did so with little respect for the tree, as twigs and sap lay everywhere, as a testament to their brutality. Pikachu, however, has greater luck, and with a cry of Pika-Pee, gestures for his trainer to come check out something he's found. Crawling over, Ash spots a handkerchief caught on a branch, and so picking it up, discovers that it's monogrammed with a stylized S. Ash knows that he's seen that S somewhere before, but isn't sure where, though at least for now, this handkerchief is a lead, meaning he can return to the ground at last. The descent is just as perilous as the climb, perhaps more so, as now on top of frozen feet, Ash also has to contend with something rocking the tree back and forth at random intervals. The cause, as it turns out, is the battle down below, as about 2/3 of the way down, Scorebunny suddenly bursts through the leaf cover, having seemingly just challenged Zapdos on its own. Ash tries to catch the rabbit, but his numb hands prove to be his undoing here, as the little fire type slips through his grip and begins to plummet helplessly towards the ground. Without hesitation, Ash leaps after it, grabbing Scorebunny and turning so that he will cushion its fall. The impact is short, sharp, and painful, but as he hits the ground, something small and rectangular slips from his vest pocket. Moe Slunk's business card, bearing the stylized S of Slunk Corp. If he had any air left in his lungs, Ash would have gasped at this, but as it stands, all he can do is watch as now the patrons of the Dyna Tree festival have taken up arms against the legendary birds. Finally drawing breath, Ash calls out for them to stop, telling them it's not the birds' fault and that they were betrayed, but no one can hear him over the sound of battle, and if they did, would they really care? Seeing his distress, Ash's friends come over to help him up, and as they do, the boy explains what he's found, showing them the card and the handkerchief. Raihan scowls that he never liked Slunk's social media posts, while B sagely adds this explains why Zapdos' first action was to try and skewer Slunk, Moltres was to burn him, and Articuno tried to follow him when he fled. Ash frowns that he wishes he hadn't made Incineroar stop it from chasing him now, but the others say he couldn't have known. Alexandria then adds with a smile that he might not be able to bring Slunk back, but she knows where the nearby Slunk Corp building is, and if she had to guess, Slunk is probably hidden there, and if they're really lucky, he'll have the fruit with him there too. Ash thanks her for her help, before recalling all his Pokemon, in the hope that this will position the birds more favourably for what he is going to say next. It does at least get their attention, and so as Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres look at him, Ash declares that he thinks he knows where the fruit is, and asks if they'll help him get it back. In response, the trio shriek shrilly and fly over to Ash, but even this can't be easy, as angry festival goers and their Pokemon still attempt to pelt the birds with attacks. Knowing that they can't talk while that is going on, Alexandria promises that she and her team will keep everyone else at bay so they can get a head start, an act which earns Ash B and Raihan's thanks. As the girl and her Pokemon form a barricade between the angry people and the legendary birds, Ash urgently asks for their help, saying if they want to get the fruit back from Slunk before he does whatever he's going to do with it, they'll have to work together. Conferring briefly in their cawing language, Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno seem to come to the same conclusion, lowering their heads so the three humans can mount up. Ash, being the closest to Moltres, is the first to move, as he and Pikachu clamber onto the Firebird's back, while B does the same with Zapdos, leaving Raihan and Articuno. When everyone is in place, the birds take flight, shooting high above the tree and into the night sky. The speed is exhilarating, but also a little disconcerting, meaning that Ash is the one with the directions, has to keep focused to make sure they're headed in the right direction. Finally, they lay eyes on a tall building also bearing Slunk's S, and without instruction, the legendary birds zero in on it. When they get close, Raihan tells Articuno to put them down on the roof and they'll enter through the fire escape. However, it seems the birds have other ideas, as instead of landing, they simply smash directly through the side of the skyscraper, tearing through floor after floor until they find themselves in a cavernous lab. Resting on a panel with wires hooked up to it is the Dyna Fruit, and as expected, Moe Slunk stands in front of it, a malicious smirk on his face. As they land, Ash furiously yells at Slunk to give back the fruit since it's not his, but cold as the winds atop the Dyna Tree, Slunk calls him a foolish child, declaring those stupid birds were just going to eat the fruit, while what he's going to do with it is much more important. B snaps that's easy to say when it serves his ends, but Slunk sneers that a short-sighted brat like her would never understand, but what he's doing is for the good of all of Galar. Raihan scoffs this is a likely story, as he grabs Duraludon's Pokeball from his belt. However, before he can throw it, a series of laser walls burst into life, trapping Ash, B, Raihan, and the birds inside a sealed cube. Frantically, Moltres tries to destroy the walls with its fiery wrath, while Zapdos kicks them, and Articuno launches psychic attacks. But unfortunately, all these attacks are ineffective. Slunk scoffs that this just proves his point. The birds, for all their status as legends, are just dumb beasts in truth, while he is a man of vision. He then asks the three heroes if they are aware of the way ancient people use the Dyna Fruit to Gigantamax their Pokemon, to which Ash says that he is. Slunk says that is good, but does he also know that this is because, like the wishing stars that he used in Dynamax bands, the tree contains a piece of the Eternal One? Ash rebuffs that he doesn't even know what the Eternal One is, and this makes Slunk sigh, saying the Eternal One brought about the darkest day with its awesome power, a power which he intends to harness for the good of all Galar once he revives it by combining the juice of the Dyna Fruit with his vast collection of wishing stars. As if on cue, the floor opens up to reveal a large pile of pinkish-purple rocks, while a large mechanical crane lifts the Dyna Fruit from its resting place and carries it to hang over the pile. Slunk then presses a button on a machine, and the claw clamps down, crushing the fruit, and sending juice, pulp, and all cascading over the wishing stars. The trio of birds howl in anguish at this sight, while on the other side of the wall, Slunk laughs ecstatically, watching the fruits of his labor. For a moment, nothing happens, and Ash believes that Slunk has failed, but then, slowly but surely, the pile begins to change shape, taking on the appearance of a pink gooey dragon of sorts. Unable to contain his glee, Slunk commands the Eternal One to rise, saying that even though it remains imperfect for now, he will keep acquiring wishing stars for it, and one day it will return to its full glory. However, for now he needs it to destroy these pesky intruders. Ash and his friends huddle together, trying to think of a counter to what will no doubt be a powerful attack. But luckily for them, and very unluckily for Slunk, the Eternal One doesn't seem all that interested in following his commands, and so instead fires a Dynamax cannon at the businessman, launching him through the wall and far out of sight. This attack also does critical damage to the building's internal systems, cutting the power to the laser walls and freeing Ash, his friends, and the legendary birds. However, it also draws the Eternal One's attention, and perhaps because of their shared link to the Dyna Fruit and its desire for completion like Slunk said, it immediately targets the birds. As the gooey monstrosity fires off another Dynamax cannon, the trio of birds scatter, with each of their previous riders leaping onto their backs, narrowly avoiding the blast which is disintegrating everything it touches. Hastily, the birds retreat through the hole they made, but the Eternal One, as it turns out, can fly on its strange skeletal wings as it takes off in hot pursuit. Frantically, the birds dive and weave in an attempt to throw off their pursuer, but the Eternal One is relentless, closing in on them with something like hunger in its dripping face. The only thing that seems to deter it is a blast of fiery wrath from Moltres, which it slows to avoid. However, in doing so, something seems to catch its attention, and so as suddenly as it picked up the chase, it stops, floating in midair and staring at something in the distance. Noticing this, Ash and friends look back as well, and to their horror find that it is staring directly at the Dyna Tree. At once the Eternal One takes off, soaring right for the tree, and knowing what devastation this thing could cause to the tree as well as the people and Pokemon gathered for the festival, Ash, B, and Raihan urge their mounts to catch it. Unfortunately, none of them can match the undead creature's speed, and so as the tree draws near, Articuno tries to slow it down with a freezing glare. Unwilling to see its home destroyed, Zapdos shows no mercy as it follows up with a thunderous kick, which plunges through the Eternal One's chest, and for a second, victory seems all but assured. But then, to the shock of everyone, the pink Dynafruit sludge reaches out like tendrils to heal the Eternal One's wounds completely. And to make matters worse, another group of tendrils lash out, wrapping around Zapdos at point-blank range and pulling it into its gooey mass. Ash and Raihan both steer their mounts towards the creature in an attempt to save B, but stoic to the last, she firmly tells them to stay away, since otherwise it will take their birds too, and the battle will truly be lost. Moments later, B and Zapdos are gone, and in response, the two remaining birds let out a piteous cry. Comfortingly, Ash promises they'll get their friends back once they beat this thing, but that is easier said than done, as when Articuno blasts the Eternal One with a long-range psychic attack, it heals just as easily as it did with Thunderous Kick. Converging on each other, Ash and Raihan wonder how they're supposed to beat a Pokemon who can heal from any injury, with Raihan wryly adding that he wishes they could do that, since then they'd be rested up, and Ash wouldn't have to worry about those burns on his hands. This gives the young man an idea, as he tells his friend that the Eternal Ones seem to shy away from fiery wrath, so maybe it's weak to fire attacks. Raihan nods, saying that it seems the remnants of the Dynafruit is what's keeping it together, so maybe it knows that if that got burned away or evaporated, it wouldn't be able to function anymore. Ash grins that Raihan's probably right, and lucky for them, he has a whole bunch of fire Pokemon perfect for the job. Knowing what they have to do, Raihan and Articuno head off to defend the Dyna Tree and the festival goers, while Moltres swoops low enough for Ash and Pikachu to leap off, before it takes to the sky once more to assist Articuno. Now on the ground, Ash brings out his fire team, and though each of them are exhausted from the competition and fighting the birds earlier, when Ash tells them he needs their help, they don't hesitate, crying their determination and readying their strongest fire moves. Wanting to help by holding the Eternal One in place, Raihan has Articuno use Freezing Glare once more. However, the Undead Terror is too powerful to be trapped the same way twice, and simply shrugs the move off, before more goopy tendrils shoot out and grab Articuno. The Dragon Master and his Psychic Steed try desperately to free themselves, as Ash's fire types launch their first assault at the tendrils, but this is all for naught, as moments later, Raihan and Articuno are consumed. This leaves only Moltres, and so as the Eternal One sets its sights on its prey, Ash tells his Pokemon to go all out, since it's now or never. As one, the fire types launch a torrent of flame, but the Dynamax cannon the Eternal One shoots back is simply too powerful, scattering the Pokemon and leaving Moltres exposed. Panicking its shrill shrieks, Moltres fires off another fiery wrath, but this is too little too late, as thanks to the power it gained from Zapdos and Articuno, the Eternal One pushes through this attack and latches onto the Firebird. By now Ash and his Pokemon have reassembled, and so launch a follow-up attack, targeting the same place as Moltres' fiery wrath, and together they are able to do some damage, slowly burning through the tendrils that now hold Moltres. However, at the rate they are going, they will not be able to destroy it before the Eternal One consumes Moltres too. At the front of the group, Scorebunny curses itself. If it had just learned another Fire-type move, it would have enough power to help the others, but all it has is Ember. This frustration grows into white-hot anger, as Moltres is partially pulled into the gelatinous mass, and as the bird and bunny lock eyes, Moltres cries out its final instruction to stop holding back its anger, and let it all out instead. With a cry, Scorebunny does exactly that, channeling all its anger and feelings of inadequacy into a single flame, which it forces into the world. However, instead of being a bright flame of hope like the other fire starters, this is the pitch-black flame of Moltres' fiery wrath. Joining up with the others' attacks, Scorebunny's fiery wrath is finally enough to turn the tide, burning away the ooze holding Moltres and allowing it to fly free once more. With a cry of exultation, the Dark Firebird soars to join Ash's fire team, and as one they launch an all-out fire attack. With a gurgling roar, the Eternal One attempts to counter this with one last Dynamax cannon, but against an attack powered by hope, by righteous fury, and most importantly by friendship, the abomination stands no chance, and so is quickly consumed by the blaze. For a moment there is silence as the giant fireball hangs in the air. Then, as the chilly winds of the Crown Tundra extinguish it, the Eternal One is gone. In its place is the mass of wishing stars, and nestled among them are Zapdos, Articuno, Bee, and Raihan. As they hit the ground, Ash and his Pokemon rush over to check on them, while Moltres does likewise with its friends. Fortunately, everyone is alright, though thoroughly drained from the experience, and as Ash's eyes fall on the crowd of festival goers watching them, he really hopes that they aren't going to have to fight them off next. However, instead the crowd erupts in cheers and applause, calling the young trainers and their avian allies heroes. Alexandria then emerges, running up to Ash & Co. with a smile, and telling them how after they left, she was able to calm everyone down and explain what Slunk has done. Ash thanks her for this, then realizes that in their scramble to protect the legendary birds in the Dyna Tree, none of them thought to catch Slunk. Alexandria smiles that he shouldn't worry about it, since after what everyone now knows about him, there's no way he'll be able to hide, and sooner or later, Officer Jenny will track him down. This makes Ash sigh with relief, and as his Pokemon gather around him, he pulls them all into a big hug, calling them the greatest team ever. A few days later, Ash, Bee, and Raihan are done healing up from their battle with the Eternal One, and are ready to get back on the road. Their first stop is to the Dyna Tree, where they bid goodbye to the legendary birds who have decided to hide away Slunk's stash of wishing stars, so that nothing like what happened here can happen again. Ash, Raihan, and Bee each have a moment with the birds who fought alongside them, with Ash's fire team also wishing them luck on their journey. Scorebunny in particular is sad to see Moltres go, and so the pair share a quiet goodbye, resting their heads against each other, before the little rabbit's eyes turn black with a hint of pink flames behind them, as it uses Fiery Wrath once more to show the bird that though they are going their separate ways, their bond will live on through this move. When they are gone, Raihan teasingly asks Bee if this experience has helped her get over her dislike of flying and Dynamaxing. However, with a slight frown, Bee refutes that if anything, the last few days have given her plenty more reasons to dislike both, much to the Dragon Master's chagrin. The group's next stop is the ruined Slunk Corp building, where Alexandria is helping the police to gather evidence on Slunk's crimes. Seeing Ash and friends, she wishes them luck, and they return the gesture, before she and Ash clasp hands, promising that they'll meet again someday, since they still need to have that battle to determine who the real winner of the Bonfire competition is. Finally, the group stop off at the Pokemon Center, so Ash can send his fire starters back home, and bring back his current team. Pikachu and Scorebunny wave their friends off one by one, and when they are gone, Ash leads the group back to the train station. As their train begins to move, Ash once more feels a vibration in his pocket, and so picks up the phone to see Sonia once more. Eagerly, she asks how his research went, to which the boy yelps that in all the chaos he forgot to do any research. Sonia sighs with exasperation, but Raihan quickly comes to the rescue, pointing out they actually did learn a lot about Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. For example, they were able to confirm that not only is there a link between the Dyna Tree and the Wishing Stars, but also the fruit does have powerful transformative properties. Nodding with interest, Sonia notes this down, saying that she guesses they've done good work after all. But before she can hang up, Ash urgently tells her that there's one more thing he needs her to look up for him, a creature called the Eternal One, who it seems has ties to the darkest day. Furrowing her brow a little, Sonia admits that it's not a name she's familiar with, but she'll do some digging and see what she can find. In the meantime, she wants him to keep training with Scorebunny and see what they can learn from their growing bond. Ash smiles that is something he can definitely do, looking over at Scorebunny, who gives him a big thumbs up. Meanwhile, on the other side of Galar, A man with an ornately tied red tie sips his tea. A newspaper article detailing Slunk's crimes propped open in front of him. Across from him sits a woman in a white coat who eyes the newspaper as if it had personally wronged her. Placidly, the man tells his companion not to look so concerned. Slunk's failure provided its own valuable data, even if it was not the data they wanted. Sternly, the woman replies that the main takeaway is to not rely on self-aggrandizing idiots like Moe Slunk, to which the man chuckles that she is quite correct. If they want a job done right, they have to do it themselves. Speaking of which, he has a job that he needs her to do for him. Find Slunk before the police do, and ensure that he does not disclose where he got those wishing stars. After all, to be tied to such a bungling crook would be truly terrible PR. Rising to her feet, the woman bows, promising that she will ensure Macrocosmos is protected at any cost. And that's where we'll leave things. Who are these malevolent masterminds? What sinister schemes do they have in store? And how will our heroes use the skills they have learned on this adventure to thwart them? Find out as the journey continues.